Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Melanie and I run a fashion and lifestyle blog over on MissMelanieMay.com. If you are interested, I always have my blog link down below. Feel free to go and check it out. I post on there a few times a week, a few fashion and then lifestyle posts. And then as far as YouTube videos, I try to post about once a week, maybe less, depending on if I have time. So today's video is going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. If you're used to my channel, I post a lot of fashion videos over on my YouTube channel here. But today's video is going to be completely different. And if you followed or read my blog post or video from back in May when I came back to blogging and stuff like that, after taking about a year off, I mentioned in there that I was having some health issues. But I didn't really go in detail in that video, in that video and blog post, just because I didn't want to bore anyone who didn't care, and I didn't really want to write a bunch of stuff on there and make the post extra long. So I'm finally getting around to sharing with you kind of my health journey and what has happened since I came back, blogging and things like that within the past year. I've kind of briefly talked about it, but I haven't really gone in full detail. And before we get into this video, I will warn you, this video is going to be quite long. So you might want to pause it, get a drink, and if this video doesn't interest you at all, that's completely fine. You can watch some of my other videos. Like I said, this is different than my normal content. And then a few other disclaimers. I have some notes written down on a notebook, so if I'm looking down or looking to the side, sometimes it's just because I want to make sure I say everything that I want to say. And then also, it's really important that you know I'm not a doctor at all, so if some of these things I might be saying aren't exactly maybe medically correct, fully medically correct, or I'm just telling you what I understand to be what I've been told. But what I mentioned is everyone's health story is different, or what they've gone through. This is just mine. You can have all different symptoms, so like I said, definitely see a doctor if you think you have any sort of health issues. The only other thing I'll mention is I am definitely a little nervous to be sharing all this with you guys. It is a little bit more personal and, like I said, completely different than what I normally am sharing, but I really wanted to share this with you guys because I want to start a new kind of series called Wellness Wednesday, where I share different wellness advice or just anything related to wellness every Wednesday. But I felt like until I shared with you my full story, I couldn't really do that with you. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this video first before I went into other things. Like I said, I have tons of ideas, and I'm super excited about it, and I really do want to be able to help others and expand my content, and so I thought this naturally was the first video that I should film to explain everything. So wow, that was a long intro, but we're gonna get into it. I'll first mention that prior to all of this stuff within the past year, I was a very healthy person. I really never had any health issues aside from a tree nut allergy and some seasonal allergies. I had nothing wrong with me. I never really got sick. I never really got colds. And yeah, so I'm just going to start. I want to preface it by saying that. But this past December, in December of, it would have been 2017, I went to my regular doctor, or your primary doctor, I guess you'd call it, just for a checkup. And then I also wanted to mention two things that had been going on with me that I wanted to mention to the doctor and just kind of get their opinion on. So the first thing was I was having poor circulation, mainly in my feet. I've been having this before for a few years, but it really wasn't that serious. In the winter sometimes I would just notice that my feet got really cold when we were outside, or they would sometimes get a little white, but nothing where I was wow, there's something wrong, I should see a doctor for it. Until this past December, it really started to get bad. I would go outside for just a few seconds and I would get really, really cold, numb feet, not necessarily in my hands, but more in my feet. And it just was kind of alarming, just because it wasn't like your normal, oh, you go outside, you have cold feet. This was like numb, like I couldn't feel them. I had to rub them for a really long time. And specifically, I remember when we were getting our Christmas tree, it was pretty bad. I had to go home and just like put like all these layers of socks on just to get the circulation back. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was I was having kind of an on and off pain at the base of my head. It would be like a throbbing pain. It would hurt to turn my head, and it wasn't constant, but when I got it, it did hurt. And I thought I was sleeping wrong or something like that, but the more it started to occur, the more I was like, okay, something might be wrong. So I for those two reasons, went to the doctor, mentioned it to them, and they didn't really think it was anything too serious, but I did go and get not an MRI, but a ultrasound of the base of my head just to make sure there was nothing wrong, and that came back normal. And then I also was not prescribed, but they wanted me to basically a referral. They referred me to a doctor that deals with vascular issues, and they just wanted to make sure that this poor circulation wasn't something more serious. They basically thought it was Raynaud's disease, but they just wanted to make sure it wasn't anything, like I said, more serious. And then the last thing they did is they did have me get just some basic blood work done, and I mean very basic, like your cholesterol, your glucose, all those things that they would check on a normal basis. And all of that came back normal as well. So I went to this vascular doctor, and they looked at my feet, and they said that, okay, we need to do some testing to see. So I got what was done, a Doppler on my feet, where they put these like blood sensors, monitors, and then you get your feet dunked in ice cold water, and then they re-monitor and sensor it after. And so I got that done. It wasn't painful other than the ice cold water. Went back to the doctor to analyze those results, and he said, these results really aren't that different between before the ice and after the ice that I would think that it's a vascular issue. You definitely have some sort of Raynaud's based on the color of your feet and how cold they get, but I don't think it's a vascular issue. So then he was the one that told me that you can have primary or secondary Raynaud's. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but anyways, if it's secondary, it is caused by some other underlying disease. If it's primary, it's just by itself, and that's that. Now, it wasn't really something super serious. He said I could go on like a medication to kind of help it, but at this point I wasn't willing to go on a medication because it really wasn't causing me, other than some pain and discomfort. It wasn't anything super serious, and like he said, it wasn't anything to be worried about. But because he wasn't totally sure what was causing it, like I said, he thought it might be secondary, so he wanted me to see a rheumatologist. And I didn't know what that was, so I was kind of like, okay, what is that? And he said it's someone that deals with autoimmune diseases. Still really didn't know what that was, but took the paper, and that was that. And then I called to make an appointment, and they wouldn't get me in for like 3 months. So I went for this Doppler test in like January, and I went for that initial doctor's appointment with my primary in December, went to the Doppler in January, and then when I called, I wasn't gonna be able to get in until about April, May. So February, March, April, yeah, like 4 months. And so there was really nothing I could do. I did call a few different rheumatologists, and they all had about the same wait time, so I just stuck with the one that had good reviews and the doctor had referred me to. So that was that. So after that, I was kind of, just waiting around for this doctor's appointment, but I really wasn't that worried. But then in January, the end of January, I started to get pretty sick. I got a really sore throat for a week, and then that did lead to a stuffy nose. But aside from that, I was really tired all the time. I would go to work, and at this point I was home from school, so I wasn't having anything else other than just school. And I would come home, and I would literally just lay on the couch. I was so tired. And then I also started to get a lot of joint pain, muscle pain in my legs, my arms, my whole body started to ache. And so I had this really bad sore throat. It did turn into a cold. And then I noticed the bumps on my tongue were pretty large. And so with all of this, I went to the doctor, back to my primary doctor, and I thought, you know, they would give me some sort of antibiotic for like a sinus infection. And they did give me antibiotics, but they actually looked at my ears and said my ears were really inflamed and I had an ear infection, which my ears really weren't that painful. But during this appointment, they gave me these antibiotics, and then I kind of explained to them, you know, aside from feeling like, you know, I have this sore throat and stuffy nose, I have really been feeling under the weather for a few weeks to a month now. You know, I wonder if there's something wrong. My mom thought it honestly might be mono because there was a lot of sicknesses going around. It was the winter time. So she's like, okay, you know, yeah, we'll do some blood work. We'll add mono to the list. And she did a few other things. I mentioned that, you know, I was going to see a rheumatologist, but I wasn't going to be going there for a few months. So that's when she said, well, we might as well do the initial blood work for that, because when you go to the rheumatologist, they're going to have you do this blood work anyway. So instead of waiting, we might as well just get it over with. So then when you go to the doctor, they'll already have those results. So, okay, sure. So I did this blood work. They tested an ANA test, a Westergreen, like inflammation, a bunch of other things, mono, all that. Everything came back normal. I will say during that appointment, I had never really had any issues with blood tests before, but I did almost pass out in that appointment. But honestly, I think it was because I had a fast for it. I was 2 days into my antibiotics, so I still wasn't feeling great. And I honestly just think that all those things combined just made me feel kind of under the weather. But so I had that blood work done, everything came back normal. I still wasn't feeling well, but I waited 2 weeks for the antibiotics to be done with, and I still was not feeling good at all. My cold was gone and the sore throat was gone, but as far as my energy, my muscle pain, that was all there. I started to have other weird symptoms. I was having headaches all of the time. Let's see, I have so many symptoms. I wrote them all down. The poor circulation was still there. The stomach pain, I've had on and off stomach pain for years. I stopped having dairy a while ago, and that did help, but I was having like really bad stomach pain all the time, like no appetite, a lot of nausea. And a lot of this stuff I'm mentioning was kind of like on and off. Like the fatigue and the joint pain were kind of always there, but then I would have these random things that would maybe appear for like a day. So the one day I woke up and I had a swollen like area under my chin, and that went away like a day later. I did go to immediate care and they said everything was fine, and then the next day I woke up and I was fine. So this stuff was kind of hard because I would kind of have to take pictures of it, and then in order to tell the doctors and explain like, look, there's stuff going on, because when I would go to the doctors, you know, nothing might show up. So anyway, so like I said, tons of symptoms. Then I was randomly having shortness of breath. I would walk up the stairs and I'd be like so out of breath, I like had to catch my breath. And I'm not someone who, like, I was working out, but you know, at this point I was pretty sick, so I wasn't working out all the time, but this was one flight of stairs and I was like, couldn't breathe. And then the bumps on my tongue were there, but the doctor said that was just because I was sick, and they can get enlarged when you're sick. They weren't huge, they weren't painful, so I really didn't worry about that. But all these other symptoms were pretty painful and alarming. So then I went back to the doctor, my primary doctor, about 2.5 weeks after I was done with the antibiotics, and I said, look, something is wrong. I haven't been feeling well for a few months now, you know, I don't know what it is, but, you know, I explained my symptoms again, and they said, well, the only other thing we can do is more blood work. So this round of blood work was very extensive. I mean, they tested for every possible autoimmune disease I could have, autoimmune hepatitis, celiac disease. They did the ANA, another ANA. They did I can't even tell you everything they did. So that I got done in February. And some stuff did come back positive on that. Now I had to wait a while to get those results because they were testing some vitamin D levels, and I guess that can take longer. So these results took like weeks, almost a month to come back. And at this point I was getting pretty anxious, you know, just wanted to know the results. At this point I was hoping something would come up, because then maybe it would lead to a diagnosis. And I know that sounds weird, but when you're going through all this, you get to a point where you'd rather have a diagnosis and deal with it than not have any idea what's going on, but you feel like crap. So that's where I was at. So this blood work came back and my ANA did come back positive. Now that first time they tested it, it was negative, nothing came back. The second time it came back positive, but it was on the lower end. And then my 1 IgA count was really high, and I had a homogeneous pattern on one of the tests, which is sometimes an indicator of lupus. So then I had all of that blood work done, and then at this point I was getting ready for my rheumatologist appointment, but the good thing was I had all of this blood work pre-done. So I ended up calling back the rheumatologist to see if I could get in earlier, and I did get in a little bit earlier to see the nurse practitioner, and then I kept the same appointment to see the full-fledged doctor. So when I went in to see the nurse practitioner, she took all my symptoms. She, asked about everything that was going on, and then she did do a little bit more blood work to get even more in depth based on what was positive. Because when the primary doctor called me back with these results, I had already seen them online, but when the primary doctor called me back, she's like, this is out of our league, and I can't really tell you what this means. So when I went to the rheumatologist, that's when they gave me more blood work to get done that was more pinpointing what was positive in those initial results. All of that blood work came back negative, so then I went back to the rheumatologist. This time I saw the full-fledged doctor. This was in April. At this point, this was that initial appointment I made like months ago. And I met with the doctor. They went through my symptoms. They went through everything. And she basically said that I had some sort of autoimmune disease. They didn't know what. It wasn't severe enough to necessarily be lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, something like that. So she basically put not undiagnosed, but not a specific diagnosis. So it was just basically called undifferentiated connective tissue disease, which means that you have something wrong, but they don't exactly know what. So she said it could lead to something else. It might not lead to something else. So that was kind of hard because it wasn't a specific diagnosis. But in that appointment, she mentioned about diet, and then I got prescribed some pills. So the pills that I got prescribed were 2 pills that you normally take for lupus to see if that would help, and I went on those, and those did seem to help. It did take a while. I'm not going to go in depth on what pills and medications I'm on. I'm going to do a whole other video on that. This is already getting long enough. And then she mentioned diet. She mentioned that, a lot of times gluten will cause issues, dairy, what else? Peanuts, sugar, all that stuff. So from there, I did see a nutritionalist who kind of helped me come up with a diet, and I am now all of those things: gluten-free, low sugar, dairy-free, peanut-free, nut-free because of my allergy, and that has helped quite a bit. And like I said, I will do another video more in depth on that. And then the only other thing I forgot to mention as far as like the doctors go, that appointment that I had at the rheumatologist before I met with the full-fledged doctor, where I just met with the nurse, she did prescribe me a small steroid pack that lasted a week to see if that would help my symptoms as well, which she said would help further diagnose any disease. So I did go on that for a week, and that also did help quite a bit, but I'm not on steroids anymore. The medications that I'm on are different. So wow, that was a long story. The only other thing I'll mention is I also started somewhere along in that timeline of not feeling well. I started to do acupuncture because I got pretty desperate and didn't really know what else to do. And I'm still doing that as well right now to kind of help every once in a while. I was doing it like twice a week when I was really bad. Now I'm kind of doing it once a month or as needed. But that did seem to help my symptoms as well. And so where I am right now, I'm still going to my rheumatologist. I had an appointment in the beginning of June, and I just got blood work done this past week in August, so I'm going back to the rheumatologist in September. So I've been seeing the rheumatologist about every 3 months and getting blood work done in between that time every 3 months. So the blood work that I just had done, I don't know the results yet, but obviously I will be updating you and keeping you updated on everything that happens. I definitely want to do more videos as far as like, what medications I'm on, what my diet is, what helps me, as far as like having pain, tips I have, stories I have, like all of that, plenty of videos for that. But I just wanted to share this video to kind of explain to you what was going on and all of that. This was a really long video. I kind of brushed through it, but I didn't want to go in detail on everything. If there are specific parts of it that I mentioned that you want more information on, I can do a video on just that. And I know I brushed over the symptoms, but it definitely was pretty hard when I was going through everything. You know, there was some times where I didn't want to go to class, I didn't want to get out of bed. It got pretty bad, but you know, I pushed through it, and I definitely will be talking about all of that in another video as well. So the last part that I want to mention is kind of why I'm filming this video, why I'm sharing all of this. It's not just for me, but I, you know, for a while now since I started my blog, have, you know, been a fashion blogger, shared beauty, shared fashion, shared tips, lifestyle, whatever. But this thing with my health has kind of led me into a new direction of wanting to share more of that with you, and just being able to share my story to offer support to anyone, you know, whether you have something similar or something different, just to kind of create like a place to support each other. And you know, when I had all the symptoms that I was having, you know, it was hard at times to be able to really relate to people, but you know, through some blogs and videos, I was able to kind of like understand some of the symptoms a little better. And I just really want to be able to share my story with all of you guys, and just help anyone who, you know, maybe just needs some support. And so that's kind of why I'm sharing these videos. And as far as where I'm at now, like I said, I'm going to the doctor every few months. I still, in my heart, believe that it's lupus, but I don't know for sure at this point. I won't say that, you know, flat out, because I haven't been given that diagnosis. But as far as what I've read and what I, in my heart, believe is true, that's what I believe. But you know, it's not like it would change a lot of things, because I'm on the same medications and I'm doing everything that I would be doing either way. So thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, if you have any questions, leave those down below, and I'm gonna like I said, I'll be starting a new series here, Wellness Wednesday, where I'll be doing videos like this every Wednesday. So if you are interested, stay tuned for more, and if you're not, I will still be doing all my other posts. I am completely parched, so I need to grab some water, and I will let you go. But I will see you in my next video, and have a great day. Bye.